Well, hi there, and a very warm welcome to Jump to It here on IrishRacing.com. For this week's show, we're going to be discussing all things Sandown as the Jumps Finale comes to the Esher venue. The sun should be out, the ground will be good, and there should be some terrific action on the track. Of course, I'd like to bring in the team of Stephen Harris and Vincent Finegan. Great to see you, gents. Stephen, I come to you first. Last weekend, you were planning on sneaking out the family barbecue to get down to Plumpton. Did your dreams come true?
I've got to be honest, Ed, I looked at the crowd on the day before, and it was so packed there that I actually bottled out of it. I am going to Sandown this afternoon, which is Friday, for recording for a bit of fresh air. But no, I did bottle out of it. I didn't fancy the M25 in the end. I thought that could be sort of 3 hours worth. But they had a cracker. I think they had a record crowd at Plumpton. Absolutely fantastic course. I always say, if you get a chance to go, do, because it's a brilliant day out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while, actually, since I managed to make it down there. Vincent, for yourself, in terms of the Irish action at the moment, obviously we had Fairy House. You're sport at the moment, aren't you, with the little calm before the storm now, with Punchestown on the horizon. Obviously, we'll be discussing Punchestown in great detail on next week's shows. However, the entries are starting to drip feed through for some of those big encounters, and it really whets the appetite, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It's going to be a cracking week. It always is. Looks like at the moment, anyway, we're set fair weather-wise, which will be fantastic. Bit of decent weather, big crowds, should be great fun. It's a great week.
I was to say, and I think we spoke off air the other day. You say it's been a while since you've made it back on a race course. Is Punchestown the return of Vincent Finegan to racetrack?
This is it. I'll be back Tuesday. Looking forward to it. Can't wait to get there on Tuesday. That's the plan at the minute, anyway. All going well. We might be there a couple more days during the week too. Yeah.
Indeed, watch out, Vincent is back. But without further ado, I mentioned the Sandown card. We're going to go through it. So let's get stuck into the action now. Well, the action at Sandown on Saturday gets underway in the 150. The Bet365 Novices Championship Final Handicap Hurdle. 13 declared for this one, Stephen. I thought this was a bit of a trappy encounter. I mean, Nappers Hill is generally soaking up a lot of the market here. Is your 7-2 market leader. Don't quite know what to make of this Paul Nicholls runner. It's kind of underwhelmed to some extent. Would that be fair to say in say some of the more loftier targets he's been in? Dropped down massively in Gradient Newton Abbott and got back to winning ways. How do you sum him up, and how do you sum up this race as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Ed. I was quite surprised to see the early market. He's been put in 7-2 favourite. I mean, I suspect this is going to be sort of like a greyhound bags race, looking about 5 or 6 to 1 the field. Nappers Hill, for me, the pluses are he's quite fresh, relatively speaking, like all of Paul Nicholls' horses. They've had a quiet few months. They all seem to be flying. Paul Nicholls has had 10 winners in the last fortnight. But Nappers Hill had a very simple task and did it readily on the bridle at Newton Abbott the other day. But this is a different matter. 11 stone, 12 to lump on probably the quickest ground he'll have run on. We must talk about the ground. I mean, they're calling it good. I live sort of a mile from Sandown. We haven't really had any rain for about a month. I would think the flat course is good to firm. I'll be amazed if it's not good to firm. I also suspect we might get non-runners on Saturday, which would be a real shame because I think it's going to be quicker. They haven't been watering. I think it's going to be quick ground. Nappers Hill's got a very opposable look to me under 11-12. The one I like, another informed stable, Tom Lacey, Dibble Decker. Now, he's only run 4 times over hurdles. I like freshness at this stage of the season. A lot of these runs, we've been saying this in the last few weeks, they're afterthoughts, and you are even money for a horse to give their running full stop at this time of the season, in my opinion. We've seen a lot of horses really disappoint in the last 7 days at short prices. Zambella, Famous Bridge at Perth, both ran poorly. It's a very dangerous game to take very short prices at this time. Dibble Decker is in a much better race, but I've liked the way he's gone about things around the gaffs twice. He's a free-going sort. I think fast ground might bring about a bit of improvement. He has gone up £8 for his win last time out. He's only running 2 handicaps. Tom Lacey's going well. He's had 3 winners in the last fortnight. So I went for Dibble Decker. I see he's nudging towards 10 to 1, and I think that'll be a fair price.
Dibble Decker for Stephen in the opener. Vincent, is this one you're getting involved in, or are you going to give it a swerve?
Yeah, no, I like the look of this Sandown card all round, to be honest with you. It's going to be quick ground, there's no doubt about that. But there's a lot of horses that have been declared that want quick ground. Some of them haven't had it all season. So I think we could. This is a punting card for me. I thought there's definitely some opportunities throughout it. And in this opener, while I can see where you're coming from at Nappers Hill, the horse is unbeaten on quick ground. That's the first thing. He ran a shocker here in March, but that was over a longer trip. Stopped very quickly in the closing stages there, was beaten a long way, bounced back in a minor event since. I think this ground is the key to him. I think he'll possibly win. He certainly has a big chance. And for me, the two dangers were Headlaw and Whiz Kid, both improvers. I could see both of them on this ground running very well too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fairly wide open contest. I mean, Dr. Panassus was a horse I fancied to run a big race in the Triumph Hurdle. He drops into class here in a handicap. But again, I would be worried about the ground for him, considering the quotes from the Dan Scouter team in the aftermath of the Triumph. Perhaps things were happening too quickly for him. That was officially on good to soft at Cheltenham. So whether this ground's going to suit, I'm not so sure. All in all, a little bit of a trappy opener, I think it's fair to say. We'll move on to the 225. Next race on your cards is the Oaksey Chase Grade 2 contest here over the extended 2 miles and 6 furlongs. Just the 4 runners declared for this one. Mr. Fisher heading the market 13 to 8. St. Caldas 5 to 2. Erne River 5s. Nutswell around 6 to 1 mark as well. Stephen, this is a race with kind of question marks about all of them. I suppose the biggest question is who's got the least questions to answer. They've all kind of failed or fluffed their lines for one shape or other in recent times. I mean, who have you got the most confidence in?
Well, I think this is a very interesting betting market. I mean, the outsider for Erne River is the young progressive one. He won his first 2 starts over fence. He's a brilliant jumper and he wants decent ground. The horse he beat at, I think it was at Doncaster, he beat Beakstown, has come out and franked that form at Ayr since and runs later on the card. Now, he did fall at Aintree and he wasn't going particularly well at the time, Erne River, but they rode him much more negatively. He made an early mistake and he was soon in a poor position in a strongly run race. I wouldn't hold that conviction against him. He's 5 to 1. I mean, these are a very disappointing. The front two, Mr. Fisher and St. Calvados, have not done a lot really in the last few months to warrant being short prices. And Nutswell, I'd have a huge ground concern on firmish ground about him. He's as old enough to smoke it, isn't he, Nutswell? And most of his form's in the north on softer ground. So I can't really have Nutswell being 7 to 2 and Erne River being 5 to 1. I think that's completely the wrong way round. The market will be a fantastic guide to what's expected of Mr. Fisher. He's got that touch of class. You could see him probably getting a much more positive ride, rolling along, bossing things. He's a sound jumper when he gets into a rhythm. I respect his claims, but I thought Erne River at 5 to 1 was probably a bet.
Interesting, yeah, because I suppose there's 2 ways of looking at it. You've got Mr. Fisher and St. Calvados who have got official marks of 157, but as you say, had very in and out campaigns. Erne River has pretty much a stone to find on official ratings, but I'm sure we're yet to see anywhere near the ceiling of that horse's ability. He's been very progressive up until his topple last time out. Vincent, a bit of a game. We're saying a bit of a head scratcher here, really. I mean, Mr. Fisher went agonisingly close in this 12 months ago, didn't he, when just pipped by Frodon. He's got no excuses here. He's out of a Grade 1. He's got good ground. And we know he goes well at the track. So if he kind of flops today, I don't quite know where you go with Mr. Fisher.
I'd agree with you. I think he's a definite contender here. We know we've only got 4 runners, but the one I don't like is St. Calvados. I think it's French bred, first off. It's going to be ground dependent largely, and I don't think this will suit. The other thing about Mr. Fisher is, while he should go on the ground, he's by Jeremy. That's always a negative for these fast ground races. Jeremy's all want the mud. Nutswell has won 3 times on good ground, but probably wants it softer and is coming here off the back of a poor enough run. Erne River, I wouldn't put anyone off that. It is a heavy ground winner, but at the same time, it's an improver, which is what you're probably looking for coming towards the end of the season as well. I'd definitely be against St. Calvados, and there's some bit of value in the others. I'd find it very difficult to back Mr. Fisher at a short price.
Okay, so a lot of confidence behind Erne River there in the Oaksey Chase. I tentatively would be with Mr. Fisher, just through the fact I think he probably ticks more boxes than the others. But yeah, not a race I've got any real conviction in, I think it's fair to say. One race which really I think is exciting. This is the 3 o'clock, the Grade 1 Celebration Chase. £91,000 to the winner here for this 2 mile Simon. Only the 5 runners, but we got some classy entries here. Greaneteen, of course, also absolutely loves this venue. for Paul Nicholls. Vying for favouritism alongside Nube Negra from the Dan Skelton team, the 13-8 joint favourite. So Royale, the lovable 10-year-old, 7-2 shot. Then you're into the bigger prices, the Rouge Vif at 20s. Sky Pirate, previous Grand Annual winner at the Cheltenham Festival, is the roughie of the field at 33-1. Stephen, out of the big two, which side of the fence are you on?
Well, I much prefer Greaneteen, Ed. He's 6 from
Right.
13 over fences. Paul Nicholls flying, as we say. He is a Sandown horse. I mean, I watched back his win in this race last year, and he was gaining half a length at every single fence. I mean, I sort of thought at the time it was probably a bit of a fluke and the front ones hadn't performed. But no, I don't think it was watching it back. He's open to more progress. He's had a very light season. Now, some people will be worried about his run 76 days ago, sent over to Ireland. But if you remember two things about that, Paul Nicholls was bang out of form at the time. And B, Brian, he's stuck in the soup up the inside. And if you remember, it was appalling ground up the inside that day. Wide was much better. And Greaneteen was beat a mile out. You can forget that run. Freshened up since. I think a patient ride, probably sitting second. I'd imagine that Rouge Vif will probably lead. I mean, Sky Pirate definitely won't. Sky Royale never front runs. Nube Negra wants holding up as a hard puller. I think Greaneteen is 6 second or maybe even lead. I mean, if he led and he got jumping, I think he'll win. But I think he'll sit second. I think Nube Negra is the danger. He was disappointing last time he ran, but he's been given a break. He's a spring horse. He wants good ground. He's Spanish bred. But Dan always thinks he wants good ground. Skelton's going very well again. He's had 6 winners in the last fortnight. He's had a couple up at Perth. I did think they were a little bit quiet, but they're fine. So I think it's a match, and I prefer Greaneteen. I think 7-4. Again, it's a fair price. I'd love to know that they were going to be positive because you'd happily take less. If he jumps off in front, he'll be evens after 2 jumps because Nube will be pulling. Sky Royale, I don't think Sky Pirate looks about 100, and Rouge Vif for me is a very disappointing horse. So I did think Greaneteen was half a nap, to be honest.
Yeah, I see where you come from there. Absolutely, in terms of the tactics, I think you're right. I think the Paul Nicholls runners will go forward. I think it'd be in their best interest to do so, as you say, in a field full of hold-up performers. Vincent, Greaneteen won on this card 12 months ago, seen off the mighty Altior into retirement, didn't he, really? And, of course, won the Tingle Creek. Very much a horse who is just becoming a bit of a Sandown specialist. Would he be the one you think they've all got to beat here?
Yeah, I think most likely. I think, first of all, the 2 outsiders have no chance. I think we're down to a 3-runner race in reality. Of those, Greaneteen, twice a course and distance winner on his last 2 appearances at Sandown. That definitely points in the right direction. Nube Negra was fancy to come back to Cheltenham after a break, but obviously the ground went against him there. So he comes here instead. Couldn't rule him out. He's definitely a high-class horse when he's right, and you'd imagine with Skelton's in good form at the minute, he'll be there or thereabouts. The other one is So Royal. I know he's a 10-year-old, but this ground could be the key to him. He's run 15 times on good ground or quicker ground, and he's been in the first 2 13 times out of the 15. This is what he wants. It's perfect for him. Small field suit as well. He's going to be involved. That's why I think it's very trappy, this. I'd probably stay out of this one from a betting point of view, unless you could get a nice price So Royal. Probably if you could get 4-1, 9-2 by the time of the race, depending on if the punters latch on to each of the front 2 in the betting, you might be getting a bit of value there, but otherwise I'd stay out.
Yeah, interesting.
I'll just come in.
Yeah.
He's a great advert for Alan King, Ed. I was going to say he runs him every fortnight, and he always gives his running. The only thing I say about Sorrow, Alan King is very, very quiet. He's had 41 runners in the last 14 days and only 3 winners, and there have been lots of disappointments. And at this stage of the season, they're not running in 30-runner handicaps on heavy ground. They're running in small fields. So for him to have had 38 losers in the last fortnight, they're not 50-1 chances. I think his horses are quiet, and I think they often go off at this time of year. And also So Royal, I really like the horse, and he's done it at Sandown. I remember seeing So Royal about 3 or 4 years ago at Sandown, and he's a tiny little thing, and you think, well, that's not going to go on and have any scope. He's much, much smaller than what you'd expect. He looks like a flat horse. But he's been a real good advert, but I don't fancy him. I do think this is a match between the front 2, and I think 7-4 Greaneteen is a very fair price, personally.
Yeah, I'm usually one massively for the Sandown bias and the kind of horses for courses angle. However, I'm going against I'm with Nube Negra just on the freshness angle. I think we touched upon it before the Cheltenham Festival, funnily enough. We were saying about how well this horse goes fresh. I think his record on the back of 100-day break or more is 1121. It's clearly fresh is the time to catch him, and I think missing the Champion Chase obviously was a blessing in disguise after obviously we got the deluge at Prestbury Park, didn't we, which caused him to miss that assignment. On to the 332. Keep an eye on your clocks here. Is the Bet365 Gold Cup Handicap Chase, or the Whitbread in old money, Stephen, as some of us like to still call it. Your favourite number of runners for a Saturday handicap live on television? 15 due to go to post for this contest. It seems like we could almost just record this and play out every week. Christian Williams with a load of horses towards the top of the market in a big staying handicap chase. Of course, he's got Win My Wings back for more. You've got Captain Ord looking to bounce back, but also Kitty's Light. Those are all kind of vying for favouritism against Rio, of course, of which, Stephen, there was a lot of carnage with this horse in this race 12 months ago. But this has clearly been the plan for the Paul Nicholls runner once again.
Yeah, Paul Nicholls is fantastic with these sort of Saturday horses, isn't he? He knows what to do. He's probably mapped this race out since the disqualification last year, and he looked a bit as though he's coming back to his best last time. He slipped down the weights, Harry Cobden's, but the only thing, the problem with them, and this is often the case when we discuss these big races, isn't it, Ed, that the price is gone. I mean, he's 4-1. 4-1 in a 15-runner handicap. There's no each-way betting here. No punter in the world must have an each-way bet in a 15-runner handicap. The terms are as bad as they can possibly be for punters with 3 places. So you've got to play win only, maybe back 2 or 3 against the field. I'm worried about fast ground for Win My Wings. He's a fantastically progressive horse, but it'll be some feat to win this race on quick ground under 11-12 with the boy riding him. He's a lovely horse, a strong traveller. You could be named the winner of those big handicaps in the last few weeks. A mile out, he's sluiced up, but the handicapper has had a say. I'm going to go for Kitty's Light. I'm worried about his jumping on fast ground, but I think he does improve and warm to his task. I think the key with Kitty's Light is A, Tudor's on, and B, 3 mile 5 will definitely suit him. He stays longer than the mother-in-law. I think he's going to be a 4-miler in time. And the Sandown Hill, you can just see him charging home up the hill. And it'll be a deserved win. He's been beaten. I mean, Christian Williams, we talked about him every Saturday. Kitty's Light's been beaten by Captain Ord, who was a plot, and Win My Wings, who was a plot, both in the same stable. He's had a brilliant season, Christian, and he very much deserves it. I mean, I remember a few years ago, driving the van up to Fakenham with 3 horses. I think they all won, or 2 of them won, one of them lost. You know, he parades them. He was driving. He's now got a lot more horses. He's got a lot more good horses, and he thoroughly deserves it. He's a very open book. He does interviews galore. He's a hard worker. He's built it up from nothing. There were no handouts. There's not been any big owners until recently. So I really hope Kitty's Light gains reward for his consistent season.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, Christian Williamson. It's just a stunning season, hasn't he? I think it's fair to say. Vincent, a little bit of Irish interest in this, I think it's fair to say, scattered amongst including Shark Hanlon. Bringing one over, Jordan Gainford on board at 25-1. Hewitt, I thought was definitely one to take note of.
Yeah, I think he's got a squeak. I actually think he's worth an each-way bet, to be honest with you. He was running a cracker in the Eider Chase at Uttoxeter. But he got taken out of the race by a loose horse, cannon into him. A bit from home, admittedly, but he was running a big race at that time. He was up at the pace. He was going well. Shark Cannon was very disappointed afterwards over what had happened, and he thinks this is a national horse in time. He's won 4 times on quick ground. That's definitely a positive, and I'd be surprised if he's not involved here, even though he's quite a big price. The other Irish horse here, Streets at Doyen, is trained by John McConnell. He's having a very good time. He's winning races both in Ireland and the UK in recent days, never mind weeks. But this horse, while he's won 5 times on good ground or better, he's had a poor run coming in here. He's only beaten 2 horses in his 3 runs so far this year. He pulled up and fell. I wouldn't be fancying that. I think it's a leap of faith to try and see why Streets of Doyen and come back to form all of a sudden. But having said that, Hewitt definitely has a chance. And while this looks like a Christian Williams benefit almost with his 3 big guns in here, I'd be surprised if one or other of them isn't involved. Possibly, you could say Win My Wings, maybe going up so much in the weights, you'd probably say is probably going to be enough to anchor him. Kitty's Light definitely has a strong chance. I can't see how that horse hasn't won yet, because the last 2 runs have been superb. So there's definitely a big day in Kitty's Light somewhere along the way. But at the relative prices, the Shark Cannon horses have very big price at 25.
Yeah, Hewick, 25 to 1. Well, Stephen did flag up each way terms here. There are a few bookmakers offering for even
That's true.
five places as well. So do shop around to check with, as you say, it's an important point, just the 15 runners in your handicap chase, but there will be concessions galore, no doubt, before the off. So do check your each way terms there. I've gone for an absolute left of field here. Monkey step back for the Mark Bradstock team, of course, of Koenigsegg fame. But this horse won this race on my last day at the Racing Post back in 2018. He won this contest, but that's how long ago it was. But no, he won it there back then off a mark of 135. Look, he's 12 years young, could be gone at the game, blah blah blah. But clearly, he's been trained with this race in mind all season. This is his race. I mean, he's got form figures at Sandown of 3-1-3-1, including when winning this race in 2018. He was third off a mark of 145 in 2019, and he won the handicap chase there in 2020 off 142. Well, he's slipped, he's plummeted down to 130. Lily Bradstock's taking the ride, claiming another 7. So look, this horse could feel like he's running free. He's a huge price, 25 to 1. He might be gone at the game, but look, loves the track, well weighted, blinkers on for the first time. If he ran into a place, was he 25 to 1? I think you get about a bit of 25 to 1, 5 places. That would do for me at a big price. It's a fascinating contest, the Bet365 Gold Cup. Always a great day out at Sandown, and I've always really enjoyed that race. Great atmosphere before the off in that one. On to the 4:07. Still can't get used to these race times. But anyway, we've got the Grade 2 Select Hurdle here. 45 grand to the winner for the extended 2 mile 5 furlong contest. Just the 4 declared here, Stephen. Now, betting suggests there's not a lot between them. We've got Scaramanga, McFabulous, Indefatigable, and Fusel Raffles. Official figures suggest you could pretty much throw a blanket over the 4 of them as well. Do you see it that way, or do you think perhaps the market has it wrong and there is an outstanding candidate in here?
Well, I think McFabulous is the one who's the most obvious, and I think this sort of race could be exactly what he wants. He's a smooth traveller with a bit of speed for a stayer. I don't think he's been seen to best effect a couple of times this season. He's relatively fresh, and Paul Nicholls, we've already said a million times, is absolutely flying. Lorcan Williams is booked. I think he might do these for speed. The 2 middle pins, Fusel Raffles and Scaramanga, are pretty hard to assess. I mean, Fusel Raffles hasn't run over hurdles since March 2020 and has been slightly disappointing over fences the last twice. Comes here after 84 days off. Is this a well-hatched Henderson plot, or is he looking at the decks thinking, well, there's only 3 declared, we better chuck this one in, get a run into him, and it's just an afterthought at the end of the season? The market will tell you. Fusel Raffles could be 6 or 7 to 1, completely unfancied. Scaramanga, difficult horse to assess, got plenty of speed, a free-going sort. I'd be very worried about Scaramanga settling in a small field. I could see him pulling very hard early on. It'd be interesting to see which way the market goes between Scaramanga and McFabulous. And the bottom one, Indefatigable, a very likeable mare, but Paul Webber, I mean, I'm not his greatest admirer at the best of times. I think he's had about 5 winners in the last 5 years, hasn't he? I mean, it's hard to back any. I haven't seen any of them. There should be a radar bleeping when one of them emerges into the first 4. I haven't really seen any of his horses feature for months. No disrespect to him. This is his stable star. She does win races, but she comes in here on the back of a fool. I'm not sure she's a small field. I think she's a grinder rather than a glide. I can just see Lorcan Williams here cantering all over them on fast ground. 2 to 1. I think it's probably about the right price. But if Fusel Raffles and Scaramanga are weak, i.e. they might need the run or it's an afterthought, or, you know, that could be a fair price, McFabulous. This is his kind of trip, Ed, isn't it? I don't think he stays 3 miles that well. I think he has got a bit of speed. I think he's the one to side with.
Yeah, 2.5 miles and decent ground. I agree with you there. Not a worry that I'd imagine Harry Cobden's had the choice of the 2 and he's deserted him.
I was just looking at that, wondering whether there's some Malcolm Denmark connection with Scaramanga. I don't know. That's a fair point. I mean, to be honest, I think Lorcan Williams is an excellent jockey. I wouldn't be worried about that. I suppose Scaramanga's a prolific winner. I mean, they win on the flat with it as well. But he hasn't had a run for hasn't had a run for 196 days on the flat and 364 days over jumps. You would be slightly worried about that. I mean, it might be ground related, might be waiting for a spring campaign. That's quite a long time to be off. Could have been running on the all weather, presumably. But no, I thought McFabulous is 2 to 1's a fair. I mean, this is going to sound a stupid thing to say as somebody who bets for a living. I'd probably sooner take 5-4 McFabulous with the other two completely unfancied than I would 2-1 if Scaramanga was the Nichols pick of the two and Fusel Raffles was fancied after a few months off. Do you know what I mean? If they're dead,
so keep your eyes on the market.
Yeah.
Indeed, bit of a market watch there for Stephen, but yeah, interesting with Scaramanga. Funny enough, the last time he ran over hurdles was when winning on this card 12 months ago in the finale. So yeah, definitely interesting angles in here. Yeah, Vincent, yeah, we sit very patiently here, but this is a bit of a puzzle to try and unravel in some respects.
It is. It's a puzzle at the moment, but I don't think it'll be 10 minutes before the race. That's what I think you need to do here. You need to sit in your hands and wait. Wait till see what way the betting market works out here, because obviously Harry Cobden, one would presume he has the choice. Now, Lorcan Williams rode McFabulous the last day in entry, but again, it was Cobden had picked another horse in preference to it in that race. So I think Scaramanga is the key here. If this horse is fancied, as you say, he won on the card last year. His last run was back in October, finished down the field with Cesarewicz. I presume they're bringing the horse back with a flat campaign in mind. Some of the staying handicaps is most likely what it is, but he's a decent horse. He was an improver over hurdles when last seen. I'd be expecting a big run here if he's fancied. There's a case for saying the other thing here is the weights as well. McFabulous is having to give £6 away to Fusel Raffles and Scaramanga, and maybe that's why Cobden has chosen Scaramanga. But I'd say that the market will tell all you need to know. You'll know 10 minutes before the start of this race. Whichever horse goes off favourite will most likely win.
Yeah, very trappy contest, isn't it? I wasn't totally dismissive here of Indefatigable. I take Stephen's point about Paul Webber's form, but she was absolutely tanking in the Mayor's Hurdle, coming to 3 out. And of course, she found, brought down my Cheltenham banker, Tell Me Something Good. So of course, I'm clearly the forgiving type, as you all know. But yeah, no, I do think she's got her ground. I wouldn't be shocked if she ran a big race here. But yeah, bit of a head scratcher, I think it's fair to say. On to the 440, the Josh Gifford Novices Handicap Chase. 2 miles, 4 furlongs here for this contest. Just a 7 due to go to post. No 8, I'm afraid. No dead 8 here. Vincent, you can kick us off with this one. Any insight into this race, or one you're going to swerve?
Well, I think it looks difficult enough. Beakstown obviously won well the last time. Had 2 of these casualties were in the race. The last day when it won, you had Presenting and Counting fell, and the Nichols horse Flick O'Voyu, unseeded rider, but that was out of contention at the time. Presenting and Counting was staying on that day, and by Presenting, and it has won quite a few races on quick ground as well. I think that might be the value here. You're talking 6 or 7 to 1. Definitely an each way play for me.
Okay, each way play for Vincent there. Beakstown, Stephen, a horse who promised a lot in his early days. I think it was 2019 was the last time he won prior to getting in winners' enclosure at Ayr at the start of the month. He'd obviously slipped a long way down the weights there. I mean, do you think the horse has just turned a corner, or do you think he was just cashing in on a lowly mark on that occasion?
I think I agree with you. This horse cost £400,000. I went to Kempton to see him in the paddock. Dan's most expensive horse at the time when he ran in that bumper for the Drews, their first runner with him. He's been a sort of a tripless disappointment. He's run very well, but he's tended to wilt at the business end of races. He got a very, very good ride at Ayr last time out from Skelton. He really made his mind up, making the running, jumping superbly and digging deeper than he's ever dug before. Sandown isn't a bad front runner's track at all if he's in the same mood. I just don't think after a hard race he's a horse to take 5-2 about. The top one, Present and Counting, is another one who's been on the go an awful long time. And don't forget, there's a golden rule in horse race. Donald McCain is not allowed to have a winner south of Bangor. And northern horses coming down south have got an appalling record, especially on fast ground. Not for me at all under 11-12. I disagree with Vincent there. I thought the one that was interesting is Up the Straight of Richard Rowe, who ran badly the last time he came to Sandown. That was on heavy ground. Forget that run. He ran okay last time. Richard Rowe is another trainer in the Paul Webber file, I'm afraid, but he has had a winner in the last fortnight, which is encouraging. Some of them are well handicapped. And Up the Straight has got one blinding run at Sandown on goodish ground last season on his CV. He's got plenty of weight all round here. He wants decent fast ground. I think he'll go well here. I think he's a biggish price. I think he's my selection. Again, it's a horrendously trappy 7-runner race with a very punter-unfriendly look to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But Richard Rowe, Paul Webber, Nico de Boinville, Stevens compiling his
Oh,
Christmas card list early. He's getting that all
yeah,
sorted. I think it's
yeah.
fair to say. Another trappy contest on the Sandown card. We'll come on to the finale, the 5:15 handicap hurdle. I mentioned Scaramanga taking this race 12 months ago. But again, this looks pretty competitive, as you would expect. 50 ball. Heading the market here around 9-2. Pressure Luck 5-1. Kamatos 6s. Call Me Lord. It was 9s, maybe a little bit shorter now. Champagne Court around that price too. Stephen, the get out of jail stakes. Are you getting out of jail?
I think it's at least 5 or 6 to 1 the field. A really, really tight handicap. I think the horse who's
Right.
guaranteed to run well is 50 ball. Gary
Yeah.
Moore, obviously, thoughts at the moment with Joshua, who's still in hospital, but hopefully things are slightly better. The message I think today I saw anyway. But Niall Hoodhun's riding this one. A progressive performer this season in the last few weeks. Ran really well at Sandown behind West of the Bridge, who's franked the form since and got the job done last time out in a small field at Ascot when quickening up smartly. I think he loves the ground. Coming right at this time of year. I'm not saying he's well handicapped at all, 50 ball. I think he is what he is, but he's bound to run well. I think he'll be in the 3, but again, it's very competitive.
Yeah, it is very competitive. I think it's fair to say. I mentioned Scaramanga won the race last year. Samarive represents the Paul Nicholls Harry Cobden angle in here. Vincent, do you think this horse is a bit overpriced, or are you going elsewhere?
I'd be going elsewhere. It's only a 5-year-old is one thing, so you're talking about there's obviously potential for improvement there. But for me, the first thing I looked at here was the going. And when you filter all these horses through good ground and good to firm ground, you come out with 2 Beyond the Clouds and Flashing Glance. The 2 of them, all their best form is all on quick surfaces. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both of them involved at the end of this, and they're both decent prices. The other one here is an interesting one for me is Chris Gordon's runner because of the ground, because of the stable form. He's on a 45% strike rate over the last 3 weeks. He's had 9 winners from 20 runners, and he's got this Smurfy Enki, which is a biggish price, but just the way the stable form is at the moment, you couldn't rule one of his out.
Yeah, absolutely. Smurfy, Enki, Adam Wedge on board. Stable also represented by Pressure Luck as well. All things going well for Chris Gordon at the moment, I think it's fair to say. I've got quite a strong fancy in this, but we'll save that for the tips of the week, which is what we're going to look at now. Well, we're going to look at our best bets on the Sandown card or elsewhere, in fact, I think it's fair to say. Stephen, yourself, can you lead off? Where are we going for the best bets this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to go. My betting expert Nap on Saturday, both at Sandown actually. Greaneteen in the 3 o'clock. I think it's got a fantastic maker. I think it's got Nube Negra to beat. There's 7-4 out there. I think that's an extremely fair price in what looks a match. He's done it at Sandown. Nicholls absolutely flying. 10 winners in the last fortnight. Laid out for this race. Cobden booked. I'm hoping he'll make all the running, although his stablemate might have something to say about that. But if they left him alone in front, I think they won't see him, and Nube Negra won't get past him up the hill. And in the big race, the 3:32, it's like a bus timetable, isn't it? These ridiculous race times that have got no another thing to moan about. I mean, they're not going to go off at 3:32. They'll probably go off about 3:40. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. Anyway, I suppose it doesn't really hurt anyone. But Kitty's Light for me is.
I love it. You're in great form today.
I've been quite good. I've been in a good mood today, to be honest. Kitty's Light, who's been second a few times behind stablemates. 3 mile 5's the key for him, and I love the fact Jack Tudor's on. I'm not mad on Wing My Wings. I don't think he wants fast ground. I remember getting run off feet at Market Raisin on really quick ground one day. Maybe that was just a below par run, but Kitty's Light definitely goes on it. As long as he can jump fluently in the first mile and hold some kind of pitch, which I think in this, well, I'm not saying a slower tempo, but 3 mile 5, he should be able to secure a more handy pitch, hopefully, and he can come through up the hill and pick them all off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great season for him. And best of luck with your selections there, Stephen. Vincent, we'll come to you. Just very quickly as well, should just touch on the Irish action this weekend. It's very quiet on the Emerald Isle front in terms of the action we'll be seeing on our TV screens or indeed at a racetrack.
Yeah, we've got 2 flat meetings on Saturday, no racing Sunday. So we've got Limerick and Navan both on Saturday. The Navan card is actually pretty good on Saturday. We've got 3 listed races. There's a committed stakes, which is a 5.5 furlong listed race with some nice types in that. We've got the Salsabil Stakes, which is also listed for fillies over a mile and a quarter. And then we've got a Vintage Crop Stakes. This is quite an interesting race. You've got Search for a Song in it. A dual Irish St. Ledger winner she is, and you've also got Princess Zoe, who'd be one of the most popular horses in Irish racing at the minute. Tony Mullins trained filly who won the Prix de Cadron in 2020, was second in an Ascot Gold Cup as well. You've also got she finished down the field in the big Saudi Arabian race the last time, but Baron Samedi, which won this race last year, was fourth in that race. In Saudi, so you'd be looking at a high level of horses in that. And then for the weekend tips, I'm going for 3 here. I'm going for a small each way stake on Hewick in the Sandown race. As I said, this was a very cheap purchase, only cost 800 quid, I think, when they bought this Shark Hanlon horse. But it's run well. It won a Durham National, if there's such a thing. It's hard to believe, isn't it? There's a national for everything at this stage. So there's a Durham National that won in October in Sedgefield. And then it was taken out by a loose horse in the Midlands National the last day. That would definitely have some sort of a squeak at a big price. And then 2 others in Ireland that I fancy at the weekend. One is in Limerick. It runs in the 250 in Limerick on Saturday. It's called Coins Cross. And Declan McDonough is a significant booking for this. The horse was a never near a third of 17 at Leopardstown 3 weeks ago. It's off an unchanged rating. I'd expect that to run prominently there. And the other one is in Navan on Saturday in the 235 race. A horse called Miss Emma was fourth in a big field handicap on seasonal debut at the Curragh. It's got one of the top apprentices in Ireland at the minute, Jake Cohn, booked to ride, and it's got a plum draw in stall 2 in Navan. For those sprints, you want a low number generally.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, some interesting angles in there. I should say it's not the rip-roaring spectacle we usually see in Ireland at the moment. Nonetheless, some interesting races. And actually, I'm quite glad you flagged up the Salsabil Stakes there, Vincent, because blowing my trumpet here, but Concert Hall, Ryan Moore rides, and she's the horse I tipped on this show at 50 to 1 for this year's Oaks last year. So I'm hoping she comes through that assignment well, and the dream lives on for Epsom in June. On to my tips for this week. We had to go one side of the fence or the other, didn't we? I've gone with Nube Negra, taking on Stephen here. Just think, tuned to the minute, coming here fresh, missing Cheltenham, blessing in disguise. I think it's between him and Greaneteen, but I've gone with Nube Negra on ground, which will suit. The aforementioned Step Back, I think could go well at a huge price. 12 years young, but as we said, loves the track, has won the race before, and it has plummeted over a stone below his peak mark when running in this race. And also, as I said, there's one I quite like in the finale. That is Call Me Lord, a horse again that is similar kind of angle to Step Back in the fact that this horse is trying to reclaim former glories. He's not the force of old, but he was rated 160 at his peak. He's down to 140 here now, and he absolutely loves Sandown. He has 3 wins and 3 placed efforts from just the 8 visits to the Esher venue. So I think that horse could easily go out a nice price for the Nicky Henderson team. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been absolutely brilliant. Really looking forward to this card. Before we go, Stephen, are you making it Sandown for Saturday, or are you burning the sausages on the barbecue this week?
No, I'm actually going to Sandown this afternoon, which is Friday at the time of recording, just for a bit of fresh air, and it looks a good card, flat racing my brain into the flat season. But I'll be watching Sandown from home on Saturday. A really cracking card, and then we've got Punchestown next week. We're all relying on Vincent. I know he's got vet's bills to pay with his arthritic dog, but this is a massive punting week in Ireland. So we're looking forward to some winners from Vince.
Absolutely. Vincent's he's down the dry cleaners, dusting off his suit for each day for the return to the racetrack of Vincent Finegan. Vincent, yourself, quiet one this weekend, and then just gearing up for the big week next, I suppose.
Relatively quiet, not as quiet as some weekends. It's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm expecting big things over the weekend from the family. The only thing is, at my age, those birthdays. The only thing for me is those birthdays come around twice a year now, so they seem to happen very quickly. So I'm all geared up for Punchestown next week. I'll be getting me Richie suits together for the week. So there you go.
Brilliant. Well, many happy returns for your actual birthday. I thought you said you expected big things from us then. I hit the panic button. I was about to log on to
No problem. Send a few quid. I've got Rebel
Amazon Prime. Get something sent over to you. But no, well, enjoy your birthday weekend. Stephen, enjoy taking it easy. Yeah, absolutely. Lots to look forward to. We'll be back with a couple of shows next week, pretty much centred around the Punchestown Festival. And of course, we've got the Guineas meeting in Newmarket next weekend. It just doesn't stop, does it? What a wonderful time of year, I think it's fair to say. My thanks, of course, to Stephen and to Vincent. Thank you for watching at home. And, of course, don't forget to check out all Stephen's best bets on bettingexpert.com. Keep your eyes on all the action, be it in the GB or in the Emerald Isle on irishracing.com, all the latest news, views and features. If you do like to have a bet, please do gamble responsibly. Many thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.